Despite walking through many crucial events from Rodney Alcala's criminal timeline, Woman of the Hour misses one crucial detail. Given how the Anna Kendrick true story thriller only has a limited runtime, it is understandable why it portrays only a segment of Rodney Alcala's true crime story instead of walking through his long list of crimes. However, it is still surprising that the show does not even mention one interesting fact about Alcala's time in New York despite featuring some of the crimes he committed during his stay in the city. Before Woman of the Hour's ending arc ensues, a sequence shows how an unsuspecting flight attendant took Rodney Alcala's help while moving furniture to her new home. This was based on Alcala's real-life encounter with a 23-year-old Trans World Airlines flight attendant, Cornelia Crilly, who he had sexually assaulted and murdered in June 1971. Alcala was not only associated with several other crimes during his New York City stay but had also worked with another American serial killer. Rodney Alcala worked with serial killer Richard Cottingham while living in New York. The two surprisingly worked under the same roof. Rodney Alcala first moved to New York to evade an arrest warrant that was issued against him for the sexual assault and attempted murder of an 8-year-old in California. To avoid his arrest, he even adopted a new identity by enrolling at NYU under the name John Berger. In the years that followed, he also spent several years working in New York City, which is when he ended up getting recruited by the same company where serial killer Richard Cottingham was employed. Long before Richard Cottingham served multiple life sentences for committing several murders and being labeled as the Torso Killer and the Times Square Ripper, he was a computer operator for the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association. During his stay in New York in the early 1970s, Rodney Alcala, too, ended up getting recruited by the same organization. Given how Richard Cottingham continued working in the same place until his 1980 arrest, he and Rodney Alcala shared a unique, unsettling connection by coexisting in the same workplace. Did Rodney Alcala and Richard Cottingham know about each other's crimes? Neither have claimed to know the other. Even though Rodney Alcala and Richard Cottingham worked for the same organization in New York City, there are no reports of the two being aware of each other's presence. While the two might have unknowingly crossed paths at some point, there is no evidence of them being familiar with one another. As coincidence would have it, the two serial killers just somehow ended up in the same workplace during a time when both were actively committing their respective crimes. The fact that Rodney Alcala and Richard Cottingham's timelines intersected is still unsettling because it highlights how both held up a very similar facade of normalcy before getting caught. What happened to the Times Square Ripper, Richard Cottingham? He was apprehended on May 22, 1980. Richard_Francis_Cottingham_Mug_County_Bergen_County_Office_New_Jersey, Bergen County Prosecutor's Office, New Jersey, CC0, via Wikimedia Commons. In the early 1970s, Richard Cottingham was arrested twice after two different sex workers filed complaints against him. However, both cases were eventually dismissed because the complainants did not appear in court for further proceedings. His final arrest happened on May 22, 1980, when he took an 18-year-old sex worker, Leslie Ann Adele, to his room in Hasbrook Heights Quality Inn. After he abused and threatened her in the motel room, Adele pointed a fake gun at him that Cottingham had previously used to scare her. However, when the gun did not work, Cottingham charged at her with his knife. Scared for her life, Adele screamed, drawing the attention of the motel's employees. The police arrived soon after and arrested Cottingham at gunpoint. After his 1981 trial ensued, 3 more abduction and sexual assault victims testified against him in court with Leslie and Adele. In the trials and investigations that followed, Richard Cottingham was linked with at least 18 victims. According to reports, Richard Cottingham is serving life imprisonment at Southwood State Prison, Bridgeton, New Jersey, U.S.